If you've spent any time in modern marketing, you know the traditional funnel. It's built like an industrial machine. You shove as many people as possible into the top, grind them down through a series of rigid steps, and squeeze them for every last drop of revenue at the bottom. Think about the last time you were pushed through one of these systems. It feels distinctly dead. It's cold, highly corporate, and entirely manipulative. A numbers game where you are treated as just another metric to be converted. Copywriter Stephen Parado suggests looking at the very phrase we use in business, corporate entity, literally. He proposes we stop treating the brand as a mechanism and instead treat it as a living, breathing being. Operating like an unfeeling machine naturally erodes customer trust over time. Approaching a brand as a living entity opens the door to genuine, lasting human connection. For a brand to live, it needs an internal life. In Parado's framework, the words a brand uses in its messaging act as its thoughts. The intentions driving those words act as its emotions. You've likely experienced the mismatch of these two before. Imagine being on a first date with someone who says all the right, smooth words, but you can sense their underlying intentions are entirely selfish. It creates an instantly recognizable bad vibe. This diagram shows what happens when we correct that mismatch. When a brand's external words and its internal intentions perfectly align, it achieves a state Parado calls heart coherence. The elements combine to form a unified, high-energy field. Modern consumers are hypersensitive to inauthenticity, often sensing a sales pitch long before the words are spoken. When a brand's message is coherent, it projects a clarity that cuts through market static, making it a visible beacon for the specific people who have been looking for that exact solution. Mastering this alignment gives a brand a healthy pulse. It drops the cold corporate mask and replaces it with an authentic, deeply relatable presence. With that living pulse established, the goal of conscious messaging shifts. You are no longer building a funnel to trap people. You are building a world for them to inhabit. Think of it like an open-world video game or an immersive theme park. It's a rich, interesting environment that people actually want to explore voluntarily, at their own pace. To construct this kind of open environment, you have to tear down the rigid walls of the traditional sales process. In their place, you install 3 core principles that define how the brand interacts with its guests. A brand's true essence is only felt when consumers are given the breathing room to wander and discover, rather than being locked inside a high-pressure turnstile. The first principle is engagement. This is the ability to catch a viewer's attention and actually hold on to it, entirely without resorting to yelling, forced artificial urgency, or cheap clickbait. Imagine walking into a crowded party. Engagement isn't the person screaming through a megaphone. It's the most fascinating, authentic conversationalist in the room, the one who skips the small talk and speaks directly soul to soul. That brings us to the second principle, emotion. You create real resonance here by giving a clear voice to the audience's inner dialogue and speaking directly to their hopes and dreams. This level of resonance is impossible to fake with clever copywriting tricks. To activate it, you have to actually care about the people your brand serves and put real heart into your words. Engagement successfully opens the door to the conversation. Genuine emotion is the only reason the customer will decide to stay. The final principle is inspiration. Every piece of communication needs a clear next step, but inspiration strips away the high-pressure, aggressive nature of the traditional call to action. Instead of trying to force, trick, or guilt someone into clicking a button, inspiration presents the next step as a simple invitation. It fully respects the customer's autonomy to say yes or no. It is the stark difference between holding a door open so someone can walk through when they are ready versus aggressively shoving a person through the threshold by their shoulders. Because inspiration strictly respects free will, the customer never feels trapped. They feel empowered and excited, knowing the choice to take the next step was entirely their own. When you force people through a traditional funnel, the immediate aftermath is often a wave of conscious or subconscious buyer's remorse. Conscious messaging, however, generates deep, long-term satisfaction. Because you have respected their free will at every stage of the journey, customers don't feel sold to. They build a genuine, lasting fondness for the brand. This leads to a distinct evolution. People who feel deeply understood and respected don't remain quiet buyers. They voluntarily step up to become highly vocal, organic advocates for your brand. It all comes back to a simple philosophy. View your brand as a living entity. Ensure the words you speak perfectly align with the intentions behind them, and use that harmony to foster a field of heart coherence. By practicing the art of conscious messaging, a business stops chasing short-term metrics and starts building a legacy. It becomes an authentic force for good in the world.